two parents, kind of from a parent's lens today. So I call it the super quick. So we went from 3.5 days of training, we boiled it down to 1 day of training, then we boiled it down to 2 hours, and then today they're like, you have less than an hour. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I will try not to talk too fast, but we have a lot to cover, and I want to get you guys as much of the gist as I can in a short amount of time. So today's objective, we want to kind of talk about traditional behavioral approaches that we use with kids and how they're not always well suited to certain students and certain students at certain times. We're going to talk about the philosophy of collaborative problem solving, and we're going to kind of think about 5 skill domains that we can kind of look at children through, and then we're going to try and hopefully have some time to work on Plan B, because that's kind of the meat of collaborative problem solving. So as I said, I have kind of 2 different lenses. I always have both of them on. Some are turned up more at other times. So I have my teacher lens, and then I have my parent lens. Those are my 3. And it's definitely something I've been trying to practice a lot with them. They're good guinea pigs, so they go home today and try Plan B with them. And then I'm able to use it sometimes in the classroom as well. But today I'm trying to look through this, and mostly through the parent lens, so that you guys can kind of see how it relates to you. The goals of collaborative problem solving are to pursue high priority expectations. So those expectations are always high, and kids always need to know that your expectations for them are high. Because if they don't have high expectations, they're not going to reach for them. The second goal is to reduce challenging behavior. So if you have challenging behavior, how do we reduce it? We want to solve problems durably, and that means not just for today, not just for tomorrow, but going forward, how do we reduce this so that things are going more smoothly more of the time? We want to build skills and confidence in the child. And the last thing is really the most important thing, which you go up top, is to create that relationship. Your students aren't going to connect with teachers or parents or anyone whom they don't think has a vested interest in them. So building that relationship, which as a parent sometimes can seem obvious, but it gets harder, and the older they get, it can be harder for them to know your intent and for you to know their intent, and so that relationship is a really important piece. So the lens of collaborative problem solving is that kids do well if they can. Because often we say, well, if they wanted to, they would do it. So we want to switch our lenses a little bit and say that instead of being manipulative, there's something getting in their way, there's some lagging skills. And if there are those lagging skills, we need to figure out what they are so that we can help them. So what we're doing today basically is just kind of really trying to widen your lens, and it's hard, like just how we sit downstairs, like the minute we go like this, our lens goes, it gets really small. So it's like being like, I love the connection of the 2, because when I'm doing this, I have to, okay buddy, like you have to be mindful in order to do this practice. So they really dovetail so beautifully. And the good news is that kids can do well if they can, and then with our help they can do even better. So this is the front, the second page in your handout is just this little poster. It's a good one to like hang up and keep it in the kitchen, so when things are going south, you can kind of look at this to remind yourself that it's not I won't thing, it's an I can't thing, and I need to help you get there. So what we're going to start with is how we're looking at a problem is going to help us figure out our solution. So the logical solution that most of us have used is kind of that reward or punishment, right? So you have a carrot or you have a stick. So we're going to reward certain things that we want, and we're going to punish certain things that we don't want. And rewards and punishments, what they do is they do teach basic lessons, and they do kind of provide that external motivation. But what they don't do is teach those complex thinking skills and build those relationships and help them stay regulated for the long term. And can we still use rewards and punishments? Yeah. Like at my house, we have demerits. We have to, and you lose screen time, and we have rewards, and they like if your quarter help me with this, or if you do a great job, and I'm trying to encourage them to save up money to buy their own Lego guys when we go to the Lego store. So I'm like, sure, I'll reward you for certain things, and then you're going to manage your money. So I feel like rewards and punishments still have a place, absolutely. But knowing that those rewards and punishments aren't teaching the skills. So if you have a problem and it keeps happening, the sticker system or the charts or that's not solving the problem. So we need to think of something different to do. And again, we want to get at that kind of intrinsic motivation to teach kids to really want to be in that relationship, to really feel that and really want that. So collaborative problem solving kind of moves us towards that more durable solution that builds relationships. So I like this visual because if you think of kids who are just like, you might have one child who's kind of rolling the ball along and they're fine, and you're like, gosh, well, they're they're not talking back to me, they're not, what's the matter? And so we just think it's they're just being stubborn, and certainly that plays a part of it, but we want to look at it through the lens of that this kid's trying to push this cube and it's really heavy, and so they're just like, oh, forget about it. So it's just, you know, it's so much easier. If you're pushing that thing for a long time, after a while you're going to be like, forget it. I'm just going to walk out, or I'm just going to yell at you, or I'm just going to storm away. Because that's so much easier than, because I'm tired of pushing this thing. I'm tired of that. So that's kind of the lens that we want to look through. So the logical intervention now, after that was supposed to take like 3 hours for you guys. We're supposed to have really had time to think about that. So now you guys have a new lens. Is our new logical intervention is to look at those skills and figure out which ones are lagging, like what's missing, like what about this is hard for you. So we want to figure out what skills are lagging. We want to help teach those skills in small increments. So collaborative problem solving is by no means an overnight, we're going to have one discussion and man, things are going to be awesome in my house. Oh, it's going to feel so good. Like, you know, I don't know. But it will get better over time and be durable. And one other thing, and this is a slide we kind of keep the same for parents and teachers, so I'm not going to discipline my kids anymore. You know, I'm not going to give them any consequences. And like I said, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you have certain systems in your house that work really well, you can certainly keep them. But we want to remember that the definition of discipline is to teach. And I think we always forget that, because when you say the word discipline, like right away, at least for me, I go right to like, it's like a negative connotation, like I'm going to discipline you. I'm going to tug. And then just remembering that discipline comes from the word disciple, which is a teacher, to teach you what you need. So just kind of, that's just another kind of lens shift for that particular word. This is the equation of challenging behavior, and we want to think about this that the child's skill level might be the same, but if the situation, if their skills are greater than or equal to the situation presented with them, we're going to see adaptive behavior. That means things are going to go okay. If they come to a situation and they have enough skills to handle that, okay, I can do that. But it's when the skills are less than the problem, that's when we see the challenging behavior. And those are the instances we want to narrow in on, instead of looking at like at their whole day or globally, like let's just focus in on that one part of the day that we're really seeing a problem with and try to figure out what is hard about that particular time. So we don't have to tackle all the skills all at once. It's overwhelming and it's not a problem for them all the time. So why work, you know, why create a problem when there wasn't one? If they're doing fine, they're doing fine there. So now that we have this new logical intervention, we want to identify those specific lagging skills, and then we want to identify those problems to be solved. So we're going to, like I said, really boil it down to maybe one part of the day, one moment in their day that we can look at the child and figure out what about this is hard for you. And then we want to work together. That's the collaborative part of this. So what I have in your packet is just a short little kind of analogy. I'm going to give you about a minute or two just to read it to yourself. When you're done reading it, there's some questions on the bottom. So just have like at your tables or with your neighbor, just answer some of the questions about kind of how this analogy might relate to your child and some of the perspectives they might take. I'm still a believer in that. Sometimes, you know, like positives and negatives and concept, you know, like sometimes those things do work. And they help to kind of teach certain lessons that we want them to get. But sometimes it doesn't matter how severe the punishment is or how great this reward is. If they can't do it, they can't do it. And they look at you, they're like, whatever, you know, I can't do this. So I'm just going to peace out and walk out and, or yell at you or explode. So just thinking about like just that analogy just makes it really concrete to say it doesn't matter if I'm going to punish you or give you $1 million. If you can't change a tire, you can't change a tire. And I know like that's me. I'm like, that's why I should play. So we're going to move now to thinking about assessing lagging skills, and on this worksheet, we're not going to have time to really work through this worksheet today, but on the back of it, are all of the different lagging skills in those 5 domains. So we're going to look at them very quickly because I want to make sure that I get you time to kind of watch some videos and delve into Plan B. So lagging skills, the research says that challenging behavior can really be linked to one of these 5 domains. So if we look at language and communication skills, that's understanding spoken directions, kind of following the conversation, and that can be kind of like the receptive piece, taking it in, and the expressive piece, communicating it back out again. The attention and working memory skills, so weaknesses, if you have these skills, you can stay on task, you might be able to multitask a little bit, you can kind of manage your time, kind of be reflecting not just on your perspective, but someone else's perspective a little bit, and can kind of tune out the distractions so that you can stay focused. So looking at all these different things about what might be impacting the situation. Emotion and self-regulation, that thinking rationally. So a lot of times something happens, you're like, that is so irrational. Like, what are you doing right now? And like, why would you do that? So like kind of like, you know, really irritable, really difficulty managing that anxiety. Again, and some of that can be done through explicit instruction, through mindfulness, through different, lots of different avenues. Doesn't think before you're responding. We're just having a conversation, like trying to figure out my oldest lagging skills. So she's one that I tend to use this the most with. So at school, she's like angelic, and I'm so happy for her. And she's really quiet to the point, you know, like she's a rule follower at school and does her thing. But at home, it's hard. Like she's my hardest, and we constantly butt heads. And like she just says something and it comes out, and I'm like, how did you not know that was going to hurt his feelings or my feelings? And we were just having a conversation. And so through Plan B, we had a conversation. She said, it's going to take too much time. I can't think before I speak. It's going to take too much time. but through Plan B, I was like, okay, so we'll get to that in a second. But she was able to verbalize that, like, it's going to take too long. And she can't even fathom taking. I'm like, well, it might seem like a lot, but I think you'll get better at it. And she's like, it's going to take too long. If I have something to say, I got to say it. So I'm like, okay, now I've identified your lagging skill. So through the conversation, so it's hard to kind of look at this checklist and be like, and don't use it as a checklist. Oh, they got this, and this, right? Like this is to help you. So as you're having conversations with them, like, oh, it seems like you're having a hard time with this. So for her, I'm like, that thinking before responding, that is such a lagging skill for her, and that's what makes our life at home really hard sometimes. So this helps me kind of look through that lens a little bit and narrow it down instead of just being like, she's being manipulative, she's being a pain in the butt, you know, and it's hard, and you'll get there. Like, I'm the first one to say, like, this does not always look pretty in my house at all. And so cognitive flexibility is a lot about that. They're kind of really black and white thinkers. So there's no gray. So if you said this, then you changed the rule for your other child, or you didn't follow through on that, but like, well, you said this. Well, but you said this. And so really that really black and white. And that can present itself a lot as well. And remember, I forgot to go back to this, the emotional and self-regulation. Sometimes it can express itself in like that explosion and like just blurting things out and saying things. But a lot of times too, you'll kind of see them kind of like like introvert, or kind of like stay inside a little bit, and so just being quiet and not responding. So that can kind of present itself in different ways. So it won't always be this outward tension. Sometimes it's this inward, and you know something's boiling and boiling, but they're not telling you. So you'll kind of get a better sense of looking at it through that lens as well. And then social thinking kind of ties a lot with all of them. Just being able to like enter into conversations, or like look at your body language, that I just made you angry by what I said, or gosh, you want me to stop talking to you because you're kind of backing up from me, or just kind of looking at all those different social cues, and then just under kind of that empathy piece and how your actions affect others, and how people might be different from you and want to be treated in it. So we all need to be treated the way we want to be treated. Yes, but other people like to be treated different than you. So that really requires a really wide lens of thinking. So this is a list that's like good for you to have handy while you're having a conversation, or afterwards for you to be like, oh, this is where I'm kind of seeing it happen. How did the kid get this way? Nature, nurture. Doesn't matter. It's our fault, it's their fault. And the thing is, we want to help them. That's what we want to do. And like think about dead end explanations, you know, they were adopted, they have bipolar. And again, it's like those are important things to inform us, but just doesn't work us towards a solution. So we don't want to just, you know, they want control of things. Well, maybe they do, but that doesn't, whatever. We just need to teach them the skills so they don't have that need or that feeling. So we want to try and avoid just kind of sitting in this parking lot, like you might need to say it, but then move on. So the planning piece, in collaborative problem solving, now we're in the meat of it, there's 3 plans. And yes, we talk about Plan B, and that's where we want to be most of the time, but there is always a time for Plan A, and there's always a time for Plan C. So never think like Plan A and C are wrong, and Plan B is the way to go. There's going to be a time and a place for you to use all of your plans. So, excuse me. Plan A is to impose adult will. And what we're doing when we use Plan A is we want to pursue expectations. We're not working on reducing challenging behavior. We're not going to solve the problem durably. We're not really building our skills, and we're definitely not creating a relationship. There are lots of different versions of Plan A. So, like giving a countdown is like a Plan A with a 3-second warning. So I need you to sit down at the dinner table in 5, 4. But, you know, so that's still Plan A. You're making it a little easier because you're kind of letting the transition a little bit. You know, like you can sit here or here, but it's time to do homework. Do you want to do your homework here, or do you want to do your homework over there, but it's time to do homework? But that's still Plan A. But tricky Plan A, like those can be really good options at times. If you really need them to do something and you think it's not going to cause this big, then giving them choices can help them. All right, at least I have a little voice and choice, and so they'll go do that part. So I use Plan A a lot. Plan A is a good option, and helping them, like, so kind of do like a tricky Plan A, we call it. So giving them a counter and giving them choices, but there's still a time and a place for Plan A. Plan C is drop it for now, at least for now. So the goals that are being pursued when we use Plan C is that we just want to reduce the challenging behavior. Like, so if something's going south, it is not a good time to talk about it. I'm just going to make it worse. Maybe we'll talk about it later. Maybe I'm working on something else, but I need to be okay with letting it go. And this is like the hardest. I am awful at Plan C. Like, I am awful. And it causes a lot of tension between my husband and I, because he's just like, you keep talking to them, and my daughter's like, you're still talking to me, and I'm like, because like I need to process things, and the moment, and I should know, like, she's upset, and I'm upset, and I know it's not going well, but I have this need to like just talk about it, and it's so unproductive, and we're working on it. We're working on it. But it's still, but like that's my weakness. Like I will always Plan A or Plan B, and like Plan C, I'm like, we can't drop it. We have to talk about this. So that's definitely hard, really hard for me. Is to just like let it go. Like she's yawning. Like it's not a good time. Like she really didn't get enough sleep last night. She was up late doing whatever, and it's not a good time to process it. So remember that Plan C can be a good plan too. If it's not a good time to talk about it, you're not going to get very far. So we're going to reduce the challenging behavior. We're not really pursuing expectations or solving the problem or building skills or working on that relationship piece. So that gets us to Plan B, where we want to work towards solving the problem kind of together and realistically. So, and we're working on all of those expectations. We want to tell them what the expectation is. We want to reduce their behavior. We want to begin to solve that problem durably. We want to give them skills and confidence. And we really want to work on that relationship piece. So what we're going to do real quick, we're going to do like a think, pair, share, but these are all pretty easy. So I'm going to make sure my sound is on. Actually, I forgot to test that. So if you want to talk about it for a brief moment after the video is done, the first part. So we're going to just watch the video, and do you think it's Plan A, imposing the adult will? Do you think it's Plan B, where they worked it out together? Or do you think it's Plan C, where they're just going to drop it for now?
It's time to brush your teeth.
I'm not brushing my teeth.
Okay.
So that was... That's the plan. I'm terrible at it.
I'm getting tired of arguing with you about brushing your teeth, and I'm not spending good money on the dentist just because you won't brush. So, from now on, no TV at night until your teeth are brushed.
Well, I'm not brushing them. Not until you buy me toothpaste I like.
The toothpaste is fine. You know the plan, now you go and do it.
Why don't you ever listen to me?
I'm done listening. No brushed teeth, no TV.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have dirty teeth then.
Well, fine. Suit yourself.
And that was Plan A.
Arguing about you brushing your teeth, but I'm not really sure why. What's up with that?
I don't really like the way the toothpaste tastes. It tastes terrible.
Don't like the toothpaste. Well, we've had that problem before. But I thought you liked the new toothpaste.
Well, I did, but I don't anymore.
Okay, so the new toothpaste doesn't taste good anymore, and that's making you not want to brush your teeth.
Yep.
All right, I'm not saying you have to use a toothpaste you don't like. The thing is, we've been through a lot of different toothpaste trying to find one you do like, and I haven't really liked any of them. And I'm concerned that if you don't brush your teeth, you're going to get cavities and you'll have to spend a lot of money at the dentist. So I wonder if there's something we can do about the taste of the toothpaste so that you'll still brush your teeth and not get cavities. Do you have any ideas?
Well, I could brush my teeth without toothpaste.
That's an idea. You wouldn't use any toothpaste at all?
Uh-huh.
And you'd still brush your teeth without me having to get after you about it?
Yep. Well, you might still need to remind me.
Well, I don't mind reminding you. It's the reminding you 10 times and then we argue about it. Let me see if this idea works for me. I mean, I certainly would be happy about your teeth getting brushed more often. I don't know how happy I'd be about the no toothpaste part. But then the dentist did say that brushing is more important than using toothpaste. So yeah, maybe that would work. Should we give this a try?
I guess so.
And if it doesn't work, we'll talk again. We'll see if we can come up with something that does work, okay?
All right.
And that was planned. And so that's a simple example, but like a real example, the one of the women that I do these trainings with, like, she did just have this issue with her daughter, and like, it was all about the toothpaste, and like, we talked about this up. So, but you kind of got to see him kind of go through that process of kind of gathering information, being curious, and trying to look at it through the child's perspective. And it's hard, it's new for kids. With parents and I think with teachers, because they're not used to people asking them, like, so what's up? They're like, well, what do you care? Like, why do you care? Because we're usually like telling them, like, you have to do this and you have to do this, and they have it at home and they have it at school. And so it's this shifting in the lens of like, let us know that, because we do care about them, but it's not always apparent, I think, when it comes to like the problems of it. And I think one of the biggest parts too is, I might be jumping ahead, but thinking about us not always coming in with a solution. Because that's something else that's a big problem for me as well. It's like, I've been a teacher and a special ed teacher, so I'm like, oh, I have so many great solutions. This is I know exactly what's going to work for you. And I do it at home all the time too, and I do it at school all the time. Like, it's not productive because I need to let them get there. And maybe they're going to get to the solution that I was thinking of, but maybe they're going to come up with some other solution. I'm like, oh, all right, sure. I never even thought about that. And one of the things that's important with collaborative problem solving is that when you look at the kind of boil down what human beings need to kind of live happily and successfully. And we want children and adults to feel confident. We want them to have like a sense of independence, and we need relationships. And so collaborative problem solving really gets at all three of those pieces, because we're asking them to be part of the process, we're asking them to make their own decisions, and then we're engaging that relationship building every time we have a conversation. So that's one of the reasons that this is such a great kind of mindset, is because it really gets at all three of those pieces. So now we know about the 3 plans. We want to kind of talk about the intervention piece, how and when it happens. So as a reminder, we've kind of had that shift in thinking. Hopefully that is not an I won't thing, it's an I can't thing. I'm having difficulty doing it. And one of the reasons that this is such a great practice is because it's always safer to assume a lack of skill and will, and it helps us not take things so personally. And that's really hard. I think as a teacher and a parent, when I'm at school, it's very easy for me to kind of be that kind of like in the third person. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting, and okay, and that just happened, but I'm not angry about it because I'm here to support you and teach you, and that's my job. But then when I go home, I'm really good at that lens for like 2 minutes. It's not that I'm like, oh my God, this is wrong. I can't do that at school. Like, that's not cool at school. But like, and that's really hard. So I feel like, oh, you must be so good at this. I'm like, for 2 minutes, and then, because you can't help, like, they're your child. You can't help not take it personally. Like, why would you do that to me? So if you can kind of sit in this lens a little bit, it helps you remove yourself and be like, they're not doing this to be mean to me or to manipulate me, or they're doing it just because something else is going on. So it helps you, at least for a little bit longer. not take it as personally. And then this part really ties so nicely with what we were talking about downstairs, that a dysregulated person cannot regulate another person. So if you are still really angry, and like I said, this is my total downfall. I will be completely dysregulated, and like, let's process this and talk about it. And we don't get anywhere, and I just made it worse. I still do. I think I just did this week. So this takes a lot of time to practice it, and just remembering that. Just be present, be mindful, and maybe you both can come down and use some mindful practices to kind of be in the moment, and then you can try and have the conversation, or maybe now is just not a good time for the conversation, and you need to get regulated and mindful and present, and they need to calm down, and we'll talk about it later. So just remember, if you're dysregulated, it's not a good time for Plan B. So the first step in Plan B is we want to empathize. So you heard him kind of clarifying the child's concerns, like, so what is it? What is it about toothbrushing that's making it really hard for you? And what you want to do is you want to be really curious, because we really want to understand the child's specific concern or perspective. And we want to really boil it down as much as we can to be really detailed about it. Excuse me. So one way that you might start with is, I've noticed that this, and you fill in the blank, is hard for you, or gosh, it seems like getting your homework done after school is tricky for you. What's up with that? Or gosh, it looks as if whenever you play a board game, it's always hard for you to finish, and you kind of get upset. What's up with that? So just posing it as a question, and it's really important. We want to kind of take out. We want to make sure that we state kind of the trigger or the expectation and kind of stick with the facts. So like, you had a hard time doing your homework, not, gosh, you hate doing homework and you had to freak out. Like, that's where you want to like back up. We just want to state like just like a really neutral observation of what's going on. And then a lot of times your child is going to go, right? And so it kind of, you'll get a lot of that at first. And the one main tool is just to kind of wait. Like, just rephrase the question again, give it a minute. And like, wait time is a great strategy, because sometimes like they just don't like to sit in the silence. They're like, oh my gosh, they're really gonna make me sit here and have this conversation. So like, just sit, like, wait them out. One great line that we've heard used before that I love, and I have to add it to our little cheat sheet here, is if they're just sitting there like not saying anything, and just kind of think back on, and you just say, gosh, oh, I love how you're thinking about that. You must be really thinking about it. They're like, oh, I'm supposed to be thinking about it. So like, that's a great, like, if they're just giving you the silent treatments, it's kind of, I like how you're really thinking about it. You're really hard about that. And sometimes they'll know, oh, they're going to hold me accountable, and they want to have this conversation with me. You can ask clarifying questions to kind of boil it down a little bit more. What do you mean when you say educated guessing? You don't want to go to this right away, but you might do, if they're really stuck, and you might say, gosh, well, some kids I know, they're just really tired when they get home from school. Is that what's up with you? Or some kids I know, like, they hate losing board games. Is that hard for you, do you think? So you might do a little educated guessing if they're really stuck, but we don't want to start there. And you want to do a lot of reflective listening. In schools, we call this revoicing. But you want to like rephrase or revoice what they just said to you. Say, oh, I hate homework. Oh, you hate homework. I'm hearing you say you hate homework. What is it about the homework that you hate? So I've kind of revoiced what they said, and then I'm also asking some clarifying questions. Because just to say homework, we want to boil it down. Is it getting started with homework? Is it a particular subject of homework? Is it because something comes after the homework? So really trying to figure out really the specific trigger to boil it down. Is it about who gets to go first in the board game? Is it I didn't like my piece? I'm worried about, because I always want to get that piece in the board game. I don't get that piece, so I'm worried about what's going to happen after the board game. So, and those little things that you'd be surprised what's going on in their head. And the feeling for you is just to really be curious, be really empathetic, and sometimes that might mean like biting your tongue and like just really be thinking about it as honestly and as kind of empathetically as you can. We talked about that, yeah, and kind of body language is important in that too. The next step is once we think we have their clear concern on the table, then we want to share our concern. And that's an important part, because the collaborative piece is that we want to hear their concern, but then they need to hear our concerns too, and that's part of the skill building. So we want to try, and this is another really hard thing for me. It's just part of our language. We say, "Oh, that's great," but, and then we say our piece. And I still I have to be self-corrected all the time by the people I do the trainings with. They're like, "You just said but." I'm like, "Oh." So I have to just say and it's just a shift, and it's a little shift. But gosh, I hear that you don't like blah blah blah. And my concern, so you're just adding it to the table, you're not negating what they just said. So it's a one little word shift that makes a world of difference. So if you can come out of anything today when you have this conversation, try to avoid the word but, try to use the word and. And then you're just expressing your concern. Well, and the thing is, you know, and then put your concern on the table. And the thing is that, you know, when you say that, it just really hurts my feelings, or it really hurt his feelings, and I'm afraid they won't want to be your friend, and you know, or they won't want to hang out with you, and I don't want that for you. I really want you to have a lot of friends and a lot of friends to hang out with. So putting your concern on the table is an equally important step to hearing their concerns. When you've really clarified their concern, you have your concern on the table, you want to figure out if you're ready to move on to that third collaborative step. So you need to have two sets of concerns and not two solutions. Well, I think we should do this. Well, I think we should do this. We don't want to have a solution yet. We're just being curious. And like I said, even if that means biting your tongue and okay, and not in a sarcastic way, but just sometimes you have to kind of just really be in the moment and just work on it. And then also make sure, is the child still coming accessible? And like I said, this is the part that I'm not so great at home. Making sure, are they still listening? Are they still part of the process? And if you feel like they are, then you can move on. Training that we went to, I just love this analogy. He talks about, you know, like sometimes when we're holding a baby, we kind of rock back and forth, right? And he said this process, and a lot of adult processes, or human being, it's kind of that rocking back and forth, right? So you share your concern, you share my concern. I'm going to regulate you, but if you're just regulated, we're going to go back to that. We're going to go back, and I'm going to go back to step one. Be like, okay, so what was it you were angry about again? So you want to make sure that we kind of keep re-empathizing with them, because if they're getting upset again, then we can't just plow through the 3 steps. We have to kind of back out. So just think of it like you're just rocking a baby. You're just kind of moving back and forth and making sure that, and again, it's a very mindful practice. Like you can even just do this. Like, you know, after you had your kids and you find yourself waiting in the grocery line and you just doing this because this is what you do. But and it's soothing to me. Like if I'm waiting, I will just be rocking back and forth, and it just helps you. Just you're staying regulated, and it helps them stay regulated. So if everyone's regulated and we have those 2 sets of concerns, then we're ready to move on. And the last step is going to be to collaborate. And again, this is where you want to bite your tongue. Do not share your solution. You're going to have this amazing solution in your mind, and I just know it's going to work great for you. But don't put it on the table, because then they're going to be like, whatever, you got all the solutions, great. Go ahead. So the most important thing is that we keep it collaborative, though. So this doesn't mean your child's going to say, I think we should do this, and you're like, okay, great, we're going to do that. No, we're going to say, oh, so you heard me say, that's an idea. All right, I'm going to think about that. And then it needs to work for the child, and it needs to work for you, and they need to hear that. So one of the part of the collaboration step is for you to, we kind of talked a little bit about that revoicing. So when a child's stating their concern, you're going to be revoicing it so that they can hear you, really hearing them. And then for this part, we do it in teaching all the time, where it's called a think aloud, where we it's that metacognition. I'm showing them that I'm thinking inside my head, because we all have these thought bubbles all the time, and there's all these thoughts going on in them. And we want kids to be able to hear that processing, because that's the teaching. It's like, all right, that's an idea. Yeah, because I remember the dentist said. So this is all stuff you could say in your head, but you want to say it out loud, so that the child can hear, oh, they're really thinking about it, and that's what I should be doing. I should be thinking about stuff before I do it. Okay. So this is a really important piece, and we want to keep everything out loud so that they can hear your thought processes behind it. So what I'm going to do is right now, I'm going to show you, I think we have time. I'm going to show you this first one, elementary age student working on kind of some physical behaviors while they're playing a game. And then this is one having to do an assignment and not wanting to do it more high school.
Hey Audrey, how's it going? Good. Hey, I've been wanting to talk to you a little bit. I've been noticing that when we've been playing games with your brother, sometimes you seem really upset and you start to hit your brother. Can you tell me more about that? So what is he doing that you feel like he's being mean?
He's purposely trying to make me miserable.
And what is he doing that you feel like is making you, what do you feel like he's doing that's trying to make you feel miserable?
He's teasing me nonstop.
And what types of things is he saying to tease you?
That I'm ugly, or that I'm not good at like math or something.
Okay. And how does that make you feel?
Sad.
Sure. Yeah, that's totally understandable. So that's totally understandable that you are feeling really frustrated because he's teasing you. Is that kind of the problem? He's teasing you and it makes you feel frustrated, and so you just get so frustrated that you end up hitting him?
No, what frustrates me is that even though I keep on asking you nicely to please stop multiple times, and you say that if I ask him nicely that it will work, but it never does.
Okay, so when does it kind of get to the point where you end up hitting him?
When I've asked him like 10 times in a row, and I get him, and then I ask him a little bit louder, and he still doesn't listen back to me.
So you feel like it just gets to the point where he hasn't listened to you, you've asked him nicely, you've tried yelling at him, and it just gets to the point that you hit him because you're so frustrated that he keeps making fun of you? Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. So I totally understand that that's really frustrating to you, Audrey. But the problem is that when I'm here, I want to be able to play games safely, and hitting your brother isn't safe. So I'm wondering if you and I can kind of brainstorm some ideas of what we can do when you feel really frustrated so that we can all play games together, but play safely. What do you think? Do you have any ideas of how we could do that, how we could play safely, or what you could do when you feel frustrated?
Play with us.
Okay, that's one idea that he doesn't play with us, but part of the time when I'm here in the summer is that we all play together. So I'm wondering if we could think of a different solution for when we all are playing together, but maybe we try to think of a way that to just help the situation when we're playing. Do you have any other ideas? No. Okay, well I'm thinking, I wonder, do you think it would help you ever just take a little break from the game if you feel like he's just kind of keeps bothering you? Okay, where do you feel like is a good place for you to sometimes take a break when you're just feeling kind of frustrated? In your room. Okay, so do you think it would be helpful for you to just tell me that you need a break? Do you want to create a signal so that I know that you want to take a break? Or how do you want to let me know that you're feeling so frustrated you can use a break so that you don't hit your brother? Do you like the idea of using your words, or do you like the idea of using a signal since you're so mad? A signal. So could we do like a, do you want to do something with our hands? Okay, so should we do like a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a thumbs in between? A thumbs in between, like I'm not feeling very good, I'm not feeling horrible, but I'm feeling kind of frustrated. I think I need a break to help my body. Do you think that'd be helpful? Okay, so we're gonna have a signal. So you're thinking that when you get frustrated, you'll go like this, and that's gonna be my clue that you need a break. Does that sound okay? When you do that, how if I go like this? I'll give you a nod so you know it's okay to take a break. And when you go and take a break, I'll be sure to have a little chat with your brother so he knows too, maybe why you're taking a break, or maybe just ask him again nicely to just make sure he's using his words to encourage you, not to put you down and feel bad. Does that sound like a plan? Got a deal? So what are we going to do if you're feeling a little frustrated during a game?
Okay, so that's going to recap. So you can see, and not perfect, so she used the word but. Here's how it does. And she probably could have waited a little longer. She kind of did like what I would probably do, being like, well, how about we try this? Like, so like, so she did ask her first, but then she probably could have been like, or maybe even saying, well, some kids I know this works. Do you think that would work for you? So kind of, but like, she probably could have given her a little more kind of drilling down wait time. But again, it's not always going to go, it's not going to go perfect. So that's what we're going to, and then we'll just watch one more example. Just one.
Hi, Brenda. Hi, Brenda. What class are you coming from?
Well, English 12.
Oh,
We have to write a paper.
I'm not gonna do it. Here,
I don't want to do it.
tell me
I'd
about it.
rather read. I like reading a lot better. And it's just a stupid paper anyway. I told her I wasn't going to write it, and I've got to read.
So let me rephrase what I'm hearing from you, Brenda. You're coming from English class.
I said that.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to make sure that I am understanding it and I'm processing it. So she wants you to write. You like to read.
Yes, I like to read. I don't want to write. I don't want to write what she's telling us to write about. It's stupid. It's always stupid. The whole class is stupid.
Why do you suppose she wants you to write?
Because she's stupid.
Well, that might be an unfair judgment, but I can understand that you're probably upset about this assignment. What do you think we could do about it? She wants to know your knowledge.
I could not do it. I'm just going to read. I'm just going to read.
Brenda, your teacher would
I
like
need to get this book done.
What's the urgency on the book, Brenda?
Well, I'm only on page 39, and it's due on Thursday. I mean, it's not due on Thursday. I mean, it's due back to the media center on Thursday, and I'm only on page 39, and there's like, well, I don't know, 300 pages, and I'm on page 39, and I like the book.
Well, I can tell you like the book because you like to read it. You have it open, and you have it open every chance you can. And I can understand you're probably feeling a little anxious because the due date to return it's coming up soon.
Yeah, I told you on Thursday.
Yeah, that's pretty soon, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think we can do about that?
I could read right now instead of writing my paper.
You could read right now. What else could we do?
I could email my teacher and tell her that I'm going to read and not write the stupid paper.
You could do that. Those are two very good answers. What else do you think we could do? It might have something to do with maybe extending the time you can have the book from the media center.
Yeah, I suppose I could go talk to Mr. King and go see if they'll let me renew the book.
Do you think maybe...
Because I have to write the stupid paper and I can't read it right now.
Right. I think that'd be a great idea. Do you want to talk to Mr. King or would you feel better emailing Mr. King?
Can I? All right. How about if I read for 15 minutes and then I'll go down there and I'll talk to him.
Hey,
I don't want to read right now.
That'd be a good plan. I think you should be able to read. So let's read for 15 minutes. I'll set the timer. And when the timer goes off, and if you want, I will go with you down to the media center so we can see if Mr. King will let you recheck out the books. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay, we're done.
All right, so again, and not perfect examples, and some of them are role plays, but give you a sense, like plan B is not being clean and tight and nice, neat little bow, that it's a process, and sometimes maybe you're like, all right, now, you might just get through the empathy step, and maybe they're not regulated, being like, or maybe they're having a really hard time telling you what's the matter, being like, all right, well, I like how you were thinking about it, and I really want to talk more with you about this. So I think, if you can be thinking more about it, later today I'm going to ask you again what you think is going on. I want you to try and come up with something. So if they're not regulated in the moment, remembering that you can come back to the conversation, but and to remind them that you're there to listen to them, but also that you expect them to be part of the conversation. So I really want you to be thinking about it. I did it with my youngest yesterday. We just had like, it was terrible breakfast and terrible crazy hair. Of course, it was crazy hair day. So I was like, and my daughter had a thing here at 7:50, and I was like, I was running late, and so I was completely dysregulated, and it was a bad scene. So anyway, but last night, and she couldn't quite boil it down like what was so hard, like because meal times are just really hard, and so she didn't. So I said, well, we're going to talk about it later, but gosh, I would really like you to think about like what is really hard about breakfast, like what's going on with you. And so, we'll see today when I get home how that conversation goes. But just remember, so this is like a cheat sheet, but it might not always stick to this. But this is just to remind you the sentence frames and starters to kind of help you think about how to enter the conversation so that they're more open to it, and so that they're part of the plan. And just remember that Plan B is hard work. Don't give up. So these are actual assigns from my house. I always feel bad for my children who have a special ed teacher as a mother. And so some of these are things that like I came up with, and so they don't work really well for my daughter. Some of them are we talked about. So this is like I'm a terrible artist. Like I just draw stick figures, and so sometimes she's really visual. So sometimes when I'm talking with her, like I will kind of like doodle off to the side, just to, like so we have something to look at instead of each other. Because sometimes looking at each other is like just too much. So we had talked about this, and this is exactly what we were talking about. Like she needs to think before she speaks, and like this is. We've been working on this like a long time, and she's a great artist. So she drew this, so she gets it. Like she understands what she needs to do and think before she speaks, and then she does, and this is what people do, and when she does, this is what people do. But this was like her artist's rendition of our talk. So that's hanging up on our house. This is hanging up when you feel a big emotion. What can you do? So once you come up with a solution, then to have something to remind both of you is helpful. And we didn't get to see it here, but sometimes on Plan B, you might write down the conversation. Be like, oh, that's really important. I'm gonna write that down because I want to make sure I remember that. And like this is the thing I found, like just a question I can kind of have an entry point into. And again, I'm not always great at using it because sometimes, like for the first minute or two, I'm great here, and then I'm like, no. So just remember, it's not going to work maybe the first, the second, maybe the 20th time, but just keep working on it. And so they learn that sometimes this is the way we're going to solve our problems, and we're going to talk about it and try to compromise a little bit and give you a voice. But that's it. I'll give you guys a little break before your next session, but I'm here for any questions. I'll be around after as well if you have any questions. And that's my email, just jtully@malmoschools. But otherwise, thank you so much for coming today, and have a great day.